Good morning. How are we all? This one's going to be sorry. Sometimes, as I said, my voice, I never feel like changing my voice. It's very inconvenient for the status quo of anybody dressing differently than they are supposed to. And yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Before I start, what I thought I would say is that from my personal perspective of whatever I'm doing by dressing differently, is it basically feels like if you imagine a camel that had, huge, big suitcases filled with bricks put on its back. And you can imagine the posture of that camel, and it would have to be, every step would have to be conscious because of the extended load applied to the camel's back, And rather than letting that final straw hit, what this feels like is taking those suitcases off, because the cunts that put the suitcases on there have then tried to kill me like a camel that, I don't know, that wasn't behaving properly, being driven through the desert of Australia. And I guess because I'm not a camel, it allows me to use words in this deep masculine voice as I let my body liberate itself from the burden of cunts that don't make any sense. They cannot answer, because at no time in Australian history has a group of mentally ill women led a camel expedition into the unknown successfully. Thank you for listening. Okay, so the topic this morning is called "You Don't Need a License for That." Now, there's a bit of a running joke going on with my current girlfriend, because she has a jersey, like a thin jumper, the ones with the zip to there, and it's got a high collar and it's got long sleeves and it has like sponsorship logos on it. And I keep calling her Lewis Hamilton because probably because I've got the hots for Lewis Hamilton. No, I don't know. Not really. But she just looks like she's about to step in a Formula One car or do the Tour de France, and it just cracks me up. But that made me think, and I'm going to show my work by describing the neural pathway that I took in order to get to this realization. It made me think, like, if, say, Lewis Hamilton in a Formula One car driving through the streets of Perth, at 300 kilometers an hour, what would it take for, like, under what conditions do we allow that sort of thing? Because it's not like, it's like, oh, that's illegal. It's like, well, the legality, is a flexible thing in the right conditions, isn't it? A bunch of people that contribute to society happen to have, an interest in Formula One, want to see this event where Lewis Hamilton drives at 300 kilometers an hour through the streets of Perth. We have done things like this before. It's actually quite common that we have a specialized license to bring an event, a high-speed, dangerous event that requires lots of stewards in order that, that someone's dog or child doesn't wander in front of Lewis at that, as he's macking it out, and get cleaned up by that precision engineered, racing marvel. And I guess that makes me then shift over to the concept of artificial intelligence. Something that I use now every day. I use it in a selective way. I've isolated basically what I'm trying to do, and then I use that as a tool. And I would say it's the equivalent technological tool as a Formula One car, right? So then what happens next is, if you go and check my Facebook, which is a very high level communication data keeping tool as well, I have taken on my personal responsibility to indicate what it is I am doing with these ridiculously, advanced tools. And I am forging a pathway through that by licensing and registering my intentions with the relevant authorities. Do you know what I mean? And there's an equivalent to this as well. We used to have, when I grew up, we had the Rally Australia, we had the WRC World Rally Championship in my hometown. And it was wonderful. And rally is actually something that I wanted to do, and this applies. It's like these people had stages of rallies. They have highly modified cars without a lot of concern for road usage. And basically they have permits to move their cars from the stages to the staging areas and to the public areas where people can interact. And you can go up to the car. So this is the exact equivalent that we are, or that we should, as a society, be preparing to do with these tools. Now, if I was 20 years old, if I was 28 years old, even if I was 35 years old, I would have floored that fucking car through wherever the fuck I wanted. And it's actually the opposite. There's no way I would have registered my intentions. There's no way I would have indicated my movements, because in my mind, I would have been thinking I'm flying under the perceived radar. And that was the absolute norm for myself and every single person around me that happened to have a penis. Okay? So we know what, I've lost, I think, 5 or 6 people that I know to car accidents as young people. And they weren't rally cars, right? We all know what are they? Brian, no, that's his name, off Fast and the Furious. Ryan Dunn from Jackass. We know the story. It's just that this is far different. Those individuals, they reached popularity, they reached a financial situation. They purchased a highly modified, ridiculously fast automobile and then they drove it too fast and died. They weren't using that highly, modified, ridiculously fast automobile practically to do something, right? And you could go, well, yeah, okay, so that's all right. Well, these people are going to be using it to build businesses and, explore legal, all the imaginable things you could do with AI. But it's like, yeah, but should you be doing that in a Ferrari? You know what I mean? It's like, imagine another example. I'll shift off. Like, I used to work at a nursery, and that they had quad bikes, and we'd have to go out and place, or we'd pot up all the plants, and then we'd have to go and place those pots in rows with the trailer. And it's like, as soon as that trailer was off that quad bike, I was hooning on that quad bike, but they weren't very fast. If they were fast, I mean, basically, it's a guarantee that I would have hurt myself or someone else or damaged property. And these tools that I use every day are like driving a Lamborghini through a Westfield fucking car park. They are magnificently powerful, but they really do require stewardship in this, to be appropriately, interacting with our society. And we cannot rely on the concept that people will voluntarily realize that this is what's required and do, the due diligence and take the responsibility onto themselves to do what I'm doing. And then it's like, then we're in the weirdest negotiation that you could possibly imagine. Well, myself and the Australian government, time for a glitch, in all its manifestations. So the federal government, the Commonwealth, the state government, and the local government. I am interacting with all of that because this is what is required. Now, they are treating it like I am a hoon. Like I'm a fucking hoon. Like I've gone to a shop, bought a Commodore and stuck a supercharger on it, and I'm doing burnouts up and down the suburbs, with smoke flying and my arm out the window going, fuck everybody, yeah, fuck you, right? That is how every single person surrounding me, almost every single person, has treated what I'm doing. But I didn't go and spend $40,000 on a car and then $40,000 modifying it, and I am doing the complete opposite of that. I have what it's like to accurately describe. It's like I've built a Formula One car. It's on a trailer, and before I even think about touching a public road, I go through 6 dimensions of planning to plan its logistical journey and indicate to all potential individuals that may be disrupted by my movements that I'm doing that. And so basically, at this point, on behalf of my utilitarian use and responsibility that I've taken, on behalf of Meta, on behalf of YouTube and Google, in the hopes that perhaps these can be used for something far greater than cat videos and, I don't know, yelling at in community groups, I don't know, and subtle racism. Perhaps you have a future with these tools that is far grander than a kind of bogan paradise hoon squad. Cops and robbers kind of highway robbery, scenario that the government seems to be attempting to set up. Because it's just going to be impossible for anyone in any of those governments to declare that I have been irresponsible in my usage of these tools. I don't have a loaded firearm at my side. I don't even have a car to put lights on and break this limits. I don't have a team of lawyers I don't have, the finances of, but that's not the point. The point is that I've taken the responsibility, and almost nobody else will. I have the exact experience required to understand both the potential, positive potential, and the astronomical danger in a multi-dimensional way that these tools are going to enable us to do. And it's like, this is where, when the first cars were wheeled off, factory lines like the T Model Ford, the idea that these cars would be modified, to speeds that they have and then given to teenagers in order for them to use as status symbols while, in these almost like pagan fucking worshipping acts of bravery, you know what I mean? Like, and but that is the case, So if we take that pattern and we go, all right, where else have we seen this pattern? Do we have, ultra masculine examples on the internet that are basically trying to create themselves into digital warlords completely recklessly and without restraint, or without any type of anything? It's like, yes, we do. That's the exact thing. Well, the assumption then is like, okay, well, we have all these tools, but they are 100% going to be used inappropriately. And what's even worse is, like, my cohort of peers when I was an adolescent, I guess kind of the culture around the place was that we did this. It was just like, it's like, oh, we get in cars and we do burnouts and we do, we go to parties, we drink goon bags, whatever. We sit around a fire. I grew up in like a kind of rural fringe area. But it's like the cohort now of global citizens, aged 13 to 25, they've been exposed to absolute, an absolute sinful fucking paradise of obscurity of what and where and how we live and how we are supposed to live. It's like people do not follow rules. They follow trends. Okay? And it's like anyone with half a fucking brain can draw a line between like what the exposure of young people to the type of content of the whatever, based on their own experience with this same thing, and then the access to hyper technical tools. Like, remember, a Lamborghini is just a tool. Like, mechanically, it's like, when people say that where we share 99% of our DNA with frogs or whatever it is, well, a Lamborghini, that can go 350 kilometers an hour, that shares all, and including the name, all of its DNA with a tractor, that moves 5 kilometers an hour and can feed an entire village. There's an important question. It's like, why did the Lamborghini company, an Italian company, decide to start making status, attention-seeking fucking hyper fucking supercars? Why? Did that exist in any other period? And the only thing you can answer is like, well, yeah, horses. That's why they all have horses on them. I think a Lamborghini's got a bull. But there, it says it all. It's a bull. Oh, I'm a bull. Right? And it's like this. How do you drive a Lamborghini? Well, you have to, have a certain level of status in our society in order to drive a fucking ridiculous car on the fucking public roads with a bull on it. And the same with the fucking stallion. It's like, it's the way that we got here is by incremental little steps. It's just a little step, little step. And they use these. It's not a coincidence that that it has a horse on the front of, a Ferrari and a bull on the front. It's like that's echoing, that's hearkening back to the age when that was equivalent. But there's no horse in the fucking world that goes 350 kilometers an hour. And the discussions that have been had to do with this have been insufficient for really what is actually happening. All right, so let's think of an arbitrary number, 350 kilometers an hour, right? Okay, so that turns, compared to 3 kilometers an hour, or 3.5, it's like that's 100 times. 100. So if you live 20 kilometers away, but now you can go 350 kilometers an hour, that becomes 2,000 kilometers away. The same, it's like if you live 1,000 kilometers away, you can now live 10,000 kilometers. Those distances, when you start adding that logic, starts to draw a picture of the development trajectory that we've been stuck in to do with this, like, automotive fossil fuel trajectory. And it really, like, I'm not trying to be critical of cars, but in similar ways, it's not. I'm not talking about global warming. I'm not talking about any of these things. I'm talking about the fact that like those figures are 100-fold, right? So take, like, I weigh. Oh, this is a bit embarrassing at the moment because I'm trying to lose weight. I'm eating too many cakes. I weigh at the moment 106 kilograms. Okay, to times that by 100, that's 1,000 and is it 1,060? But that's way more. Right? There's no way you can fucking walk. If you walked into a bar and you weighed not overweight. I'm not talking obese. I'm talking like what's the word? Scaled up, an exact scaled up version, but you weighed 100 times. I mean, do you think that you're not causing a scene within that? Do you think it's like, what about when you go to the bank? What does a bank do when 1,000-kilogram, giant walks into the fucking bank? And just keep going. Just keep exploring what 100 times, what a multiplier of 100 means to almost everything. And then understand that we have built our societies on that scale, to that scale. And it absolutely skews every single fucking metric, every decision. It is completely insane. And I have no doubt the intellectual leaders of the time, if they weren't just in awe and amazed by the wonder of these technologies, which is the problem, we were stuck in the awe of this, and we were led by the masculine, influence of this drive to, like, novelty, flying by the seat of our pants, and that being hyper masculinized and then reinforced, socially, as they were we're looking for the best of 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 the best. And it's like, where else have we done this? And I'll answer you. It's fake tits with women. This is wherever we look in society. We find something, we jack it to the fucking moon, and then we fucking restrict it back down. But the problem is, it's like we're finding too many things, right? So it's like a Mexican wave, and chasing the dragon of this fucking hyper masculine fucking urge to fucking just like, and I have it. Like I've identified it and then gone, I better fucking settle down with that. Because the equation isn't any longer, it's not like most men, they're given this thing, so you're going to kill yourself on that motorbike, you're going to kill yourself in that car, and sometimes you're going to kill someone else. But now it's like, you're going to kill an entire fucking village by your entrepreneurial shit that you've cooked up in your fucking, in your bedroom, before anyone has a fucking chance of stopping you or preventing you. And it's because this is 100-fold again. It's like, it's not you're successful as a man, you go buy a $100,000 supercar, $200,000 supercar, and drive it down the street and show off. It's like, it's 100 times that. So at worst, they're like, well, we can put up with this. They're going to kill themselves or maybe kill, one or two people, but they bring enough to our society to allow this type of thing to continue this on. And there's too much pushback, because everyone around basically thinks that one day they might have a Lamborghini, and if they stop that person driving their Lamborghini, then they won't be able to drive their Lamborghini when they're finally successful. But this is like, so take Adrian Portatini, whatever his name is. It's like, he drives the Lambo guy. It's like, would you let him drive a Lamborghini bus filled with fucking children to the fucking strip club? And that's probably only twofold or threefold. That's not 100-fold. Are you going to let Adrian Portatini, build a fucking city, where everyone's plugged? And it's like, this is going to fucking happen. Now, we need an atlas of the world that tells us who, where, when, what, how is fucking going on. The same as you go to a flight agent, travel agent, you go, I want to travel around Italy, and I want to, I just want to sit and do this, right? So, okay, here's a place that was built by a family who, collected their assets and hired people and did all these things and built this thing, and, then it's got this whole fucking story, right? Those places that already exist need to immediately start differentiating how they are absolutely different and insulated from the ridiculous things that are going to be created by these lunatic fucking Lamborghini driving fucking AI enabled fucking, con men. And there needs to be a baseline minimum of how this is going to emerge. I have attempted to build, just on the fly, in wartime conditions, a baseline model of interacting with our governmental system in order to do something. A public indication of intent as the baseline, as the standard. This should be thought of as the rules of the road. And they are not, if this isn't met, if this isn't agreed to right now, then that will set us immediately on a trajectory of like constant and unending and unstoppable warfare. Because basically it's like, if you are going to allow the previous era of entrepreneurs, of business owners, of corporations to obscure their actions through the previous system, but utilize tools of this magnitude, then my job becomes, how do I blow up Rio Tinto without anyone noticing? But it just does. It's like this. It's the same condition that while we end up with Al Qaeda, will happen everywhere. Every nation on fucking Earth and the entire Earth becomes an arena, where it's inevitable, because it's like, well, what would a corporation do with ultimate tools of power? They will enslave you. That's it. It's like, what have warlords done? They've enslaved people. If you want to get even the current day, whether they're real or fake or created, whatever it is like Andrew Tate, basically benefits from a system that is enslaving everybody, and then he's hyper focused on a particular cohort of indentured servants that are sexy women and then he builds his story. And this is the same. It's like the first person to build a sports car. Well, I built this car. I'm going to do it this. It's going to be this. It's like, it's just permission slips. It's just like, what I'm doing is no different than Enzo Ferrari sitting in his thing, like tinkering away. And it's like, and then I just sell it. So, I'm going to build this to be a car. We're going to have an industry. This is going to be good. Tractors, whatever the fuck it is. Incremental permission. Incremental permission is like, but Enzo didn't say, by the end of this, I'm going to have fucking a bunch of international sex traffickers smoking guitars on an interactive network of fucking digital sex slavery, driving my cars and fucking then promoting him. It's like, because then he can't, right? Because if he did, he wouldn't have been given the permission. I'm gonna bottle male status, stick a fucking horse logo on the front of it, and then project it out and make lots of money for and then bring it back to my castle. And it's like, where did he get permission? What's the fucking cycle of his? And it's not, this isn't, again, he's this amazingly successful person. There's no way they could have known. But we need to recognize the pattern. We need to say, we didn't architecturally design our societies. They emerged by chaotic creation, which is cool. And my argument would be, it's like, well, we've had enough chaotic creation that the only job now with these tools to immediately fucking regulate this potential for fucking catastrophic failure is that you need to acquire a license, much like a prospecting license for mining. You need to legislate yourself a mandate, and you need to specialize in identifying and mapping what we've already built in ways that most people have never heard of. We need to 3D map, 3D model these entire corporate and industrial, projections, faithfully and with respect to the entrepreneur in the thing, to the founder, because it is a success story, right? But at some point, they lost control of it, and then it became a ball that was kicked in the air by the international finance market. And then it became a ball that was kicked in the air by international competition of attention. But it's very obvious now to sit there and go, well, where does that end? It ends with Genghis Khan, Adolf Hitler, and Stalin and Mao, with a fucking ultimate showdown warfare, utilizing a fucking never-ending rocket ship of technology, and we all fucking die. It's like the collateral damage is like, are we currently dropping bombs that consistently produce collateral damage? And are we building warfare, tactics and strategies that allow for that? And that is the exact opposite of where any other industrial process has gone. Right now, it's like, say Ferrari or Lamborghini says, we need a new supplier for this fucking turbo, right? An intensely precision piece of engineering, right? And you get some fucking hillbilly in Kazakhstan says, I'll do it. I'm going to build it on a fucking lathe, out of a wood lathe, and a hammer on my workbench next to my chicken coop. Has that ever fucking happened? No, it can't, because it's like you cannot produce a fucking turbo for a Lamborghini or a Ferrari on a fucking workbench next to your chicken coop with a fucking hammer and chisel. You cannot do it. Why? Because the fucking accuracy, the precision is not there. Now, this is known because all militaries, and most prominently right now, the United States military has used this term quite a lot. There's precision. This is a precision strike attack on this thing. It's like, no, it's fucking not. You're on a fucking workbench with a hammer and chisel, and you're doing a calculation much like fucking Churchill or whoever was doing when he sent Australians, all due respect, to Gallipoli. It's like, while we're also at the cusp, and it's like, it's absolutely certain if we do not fucking hit this point and go, there's 1,000 ships kept there, the oil is fucking shut down. It's like, well, isn't that convenient? Because we have one hell of a fucking job that we need to do, and we don't need almost one drop of fucking oil. You know what I mean? It's like, in any situation, there are two options, there are two trajectories. Like, you can sit there as the Prime Minister right now and say, oh, I've garnered another 100,000 barrels of oil that lasts us a day. It's like, or you could say, I've decided to put a pin in the fucking map and in the fucking calendar and in the clock and say, we are going to spend that oil as if it was fucking liquid fucking gold. And we are going to utilize the tools now, this laptop being one of them, that I could ride a fucking treadmill or a bike, a push bike with a generator on it for an hour and run it for a week. Whatever. I don't know exactly what the equation is, but it's like, and look what I'm doing with it. Because it's a fucking Lamborghini. And it's like, the question to the government is like, how many other Australian citizens right now have taken the fucking responsibility onto themselves to not just fucking explore this area, but to actually do it responsibly, to map out and conceive these concepts and how we can do it differently than everyone else. And that's the point where it's like, you fucking have to give me that answer. You have to give the Australian people that fucking answer right now. You must. For ages now, it's like, what's my entire argument with the state premier right now? Well, he didn't answer my message. Not one of the 10,000. But based on conversations I've had with my friends and family or whatever, it's like, he doesn't know how many messages he get. Well, how many fucking messages did he get? That's the question. And it requires an answer. And I will bet my entire fucking family's future on the fact that answer is way fucking smaller than anyone would ever imagine. Which means it's like, we don't produce people that are doing what I do. We produce hoons and we produce slaves. And we produce hoons that are slaves, but we don't produce anyone that is actually going to fucking like to put all the things that most people are working for aside so that we don't all go down this inevitable pathway to fucking hell. It's like we need to do 3D maps of each city and go, this is what was built before petroleum. And then go, wow. Because the real answer is like, this is what was built before petroleum and without artificial intelligence. Right? Petroleum is a fuel source, and its speciality is high load, high intensity, whatever, with minimum precision. You can ask any engineer, what do they use petrol motors for? High output, grunt, oomph, low precision. Petrol, fucking amazing. And why is that? Well, because it's a controlled fucking explosion. Right, think about this. If I went door to door in the suburb that I'm currently in, I said, listen, I would like to build a swimming pool at the back, and I'm going to require just a small controlled explosion. And I petition that to my neighbors. They're going to say, fuck you, use a shovel. Fuck you, use a fucking, you know what I mean? There's almost never a circumstance in this day and age where a small explosion, is enabled without the use of like multiple levels of licensing. Yet we all drive a fucking super fucking, power plant of a controlled explosion every day that any engineer will tell you that all petrol fucking products, all, internal combustion products, they were utilized for oomph, high intensity, low precision work. Like a chainsaw. You know what I mean? The minute you go from a chainsaw down to a wood lathe, which is actually what I mentioned is not precision, but it's far more precision than a chainsaw. The further you go into precision, right, you inevitably get this return on investment, this value-adding, explosion that is consistent and is always the case. Right? This in fabrication and industrial manufacturing is called tooling up. Right? You can go and get a chainsaw from Bunnings now for like $200 and go and chop fucking wood that you give to people to burn in their fucking whatever, and you stick it in the back of your ute. You drive it around and deliver people this thing that they can stick in their whatever and burn it. Right? Or you can tool up and use one block of that fucking wood and turn it into an elaborate fucking, turned something, or even better, it's like a Chinese elaborate fucking mechanical box with sliding fucking things that, those things. It's like that value adding is not a recent occurrence. It's not of the fossil fuel age. It's not of the internal combustion industrial revolution. Like, it's not to do with that. So what happened? It's like, well, when you're driving at 350 kilometers an hour in a Lamborghini, you can't see the fucking elaborate handmade, box made by precision skilled craftsmen passed down generations and generations through it, that. So it's like, man, throw it out the window. So the value goes down. It's like, but the peak. See, it has cultural value. It has for the producer. It has value. So it's what the reason we still have people doing that is because they value the skill, and that's what they do. And in the thin economy that that still does it, and they can still maybe make a living. So you take the Ferraris off the road. You know, you build a society that turns the status, you know, away from basically a WOG tractor into a small, you know, handmade ornament on a bookshelf that is, again, a small handmade item in a house that is, you know, not mass produced, but a house that it's like, that's capacity. That's like, that is the alternative trajectory of society. And there's no arguing. It's like the fact that we have a fucking absolutely obnoxious fucking WOG fucking, you know, casino, underground casino, like backroom casino, dodgy fucking bookkeeping fucking bullshit artist. There. Once you explain that, you're like, oh my God, do we have a lot of fucking, you know, a lot of headway. If we were a reservoir, if we were a dam, you know, we're down in the mud. We're down in the little potholes filled with mosquitoes. And we have all of that fucking potential to fill up. And almost none of that potential requires oil and fossil fuel. Because fossil fuel, I told you, it does one fucking thing. Intense, grunty, fucking oomphy fucking thing, low precision. You can make so much more money with a fucking Dremel tool and a fucking magnifying glass than you can make with a chainsaw. Legally. You know, obviously you can kill people with a chainsaw, and maybe, you know, in this current thing, maybe, you know, if you get a phone call from Adrian Portatini, he says, listen, you still got that chainsaw, bruh. I need you to fucking cut this guy's door down. He's talking shit on the internet again. He's talking shit. He's trying to get people to buy fucking, I don't know, jewelry boxes or something. Yeah, man. Now, fuck. How are people? Why is anyone going to fucking join my rewards club when everyone now wants like a jewelry box? You said something about a fucking reservoir? Yeah, the reservoir is empty. Oh, fuck no, man. Well, yeah, I pulled that plug out, but as if they're gonna find me, man. I pulled that plug out. I got it hidden, man. I buried it in my backyard. Yeah. Yeah, well, I don't know how. No one's gonna want a fucking Ferrari when there's a fucking beautiful lake there, man, filled with fucking fish and shit. No, they got fucking tractors to move, man. Yeah. I need to move. Like, that's where we are. And I think right now, the reason I decided to become a Catholic yesterday and decided I'd like to go visit the Pope is because I want to identify this cohort to the Italians and say, I want to go to the village where the guy's still doing this thing in a village. And I say, do you know there's some WOG cunt that moved to Australia that built a fucking casino, craned a fucking sports car into his penthouse and is basically conning the entire country into being gambling addicts, and you know, and he pulled the plug out of our reservoir, and now we don't have any water. You know, we're scrapping like fucking over jerry cans of oil when we have this beautiful, you know, undeveloped place. You know what I mean? I go and do the engineering statistics. I go to these Italian villages that were built by hand by masons on cliff sides that draw in, you know, hundreds of thousands of tourists paying millions, all this money. And I'm like, this reflects badly on Italy. Do you mind if we put him in prison? Do you know what I mean? I don't see anyone around. I see that guy. I see those guys running that card game down in that cafe. How did one of those cunts get on the telly around this big rock here? And they go, I don't fucking know how he did that. You know what I mean? And it's like, with the power of a Lamborghini. And who gave that Lamborghini all that power? Well, brilliant fucking marketers. So that shows the potential. Like, that they weren't lying. Lamborghini wasn't lying with its marketing. You know, it did. It manifested its destiny by doing this. You know, if you think of Tony Montana, you think of like Staying Alive, whatever it is, whatever Italian fucking soap opera fucking drama you need to fucking understand. It's like, they didn't lie. They built what they said. They did what it said on the box. This fucking migrant came to Australia, got a Lamborghini, and built a fucking empire. It's like, yes, I destroyed it while in my girlfriend's fucking bikini top on a $200 laptop, but he still did it. You know what I mean? Yes, it becomes the most humiliating fucking, situation on earth, like at the flick of a switch. It's like, yes, it is all of there in a crumbled fucking pile of wog fucking bullshit. But think of what that means. It's like, if that can happen to a small tractor company from the fucking hills of fucking Sicily or whatever it is, it's like, imagine what we can do now, in the responsible way. Imagine the options, the wonder of that. You take the success story of Lamborghini and you put it into that Chinese peasant that builds fucking, meticulously fucking designed cabinetry fucking boxes with veneers and inlays, and you do the same, Because there's a point. The Lamborghini makes sense with an abundant supply of fossil fuels and petrol. It doesn't make sense when you purposefully hold that up. And it's literally the only responsible thing that anyone would ever do. It basically gives us, because there's no way. Like, this isn't like, we're not going to get out of this the same way we got into it. We're going to get out of it by reflecting back, or what we always do. We're going to reflect back on what we've just done, and I'm talking the last 80 years, and we're going to roll around on the floor laughing our fucking asses off about how ridiculously fucking stupid human beings are. Right? And every one of those dumb fucking moronic fucking dimwits is going to be given their flowers of recognition while we do it. We don't need to get Enzo Ferrari and the guy who built, we don't need to humiliate them. We need to celebrate them. They never intended, no one around them, not anything of society, not any government, nothing, no financial institution ever said that those tinkerers in a shed in Italy should have taken the responsibility of the entire world's development into their hands. Why? How could you do that? That's asking too much back then. Success was an arrow shot, really. If we want to get back to like Greece, those islands, that Mediterranean where we all came from, it's like that's those mythologies. That's that. It's like it's a fucking arrow shot. It's aim and shoot, right? You can't think about the fact that some fucking grubby wog fucking con man is going to accidentally lift himself to the pinnacle of Australian fucking culture. He's going to invade and inseminate our culture with destructive fucking criminal fucking mindsets at a pivotal time, and then be exposed by some fucking, ridiculously trained archer on the other side of the world. You can't think that while you're trying to shoot the fucking target. You just got to shoot this. I want to make a car that makes the fucking wogs fucking happy. Like that, right? That's it. And they did it. They did it. But I'm not Italian. Do you know what I mean? It's like that's, he isn't Italian. I am British. Right? So there was a time when the Italians decided that my little fucking island was their fucking target, right? They hit it successfully. They did some shit. They were there. We told them to fuck off. We then worked with them. We worked against them. We worked with them. And then they fucked off again. And then we built back up. And then they rocked back up again. So this is consistent. But now I'm not in Britain, but I am British. And I have another little island that I use as reference, and it's called Tasmania. You know, from Tasmania, it's like 180 years, we got to think differently. We got to say, oh, this is, they're trying to shoot us. The wogs are trying to shoot us. They're doing this, right? All of this, right? And I decided to return the favor. Right? I said, well, who's their man? And I said, well, the Pope. The Pope's their man. Where is he? The Pope's in Rome. Right. That's a small little town. That's a little city, right? And it's like, well, I'm going to aim there. I'm going to aim at the Pope. Right? But what I did differently is I shifted it 2 centimeters to the right and shot him over the fucking shoulder, and it hit his fucking little chair, and then we both giggled about it. And he said, you are right. That Lambo guy is a fucking ridiculous fucking person to send as a example of Italian or Roman, whatever it is, you know what I mean? It's like, we're going to take him home. And I don't want to know right now if he's not Italian. I don't fucking care, okay? You know, it's like if we want to get stuck down in the mud of these terms, wog, and call it offensive, it's like, well, let's just assume the words that were used by the Romans when they were looking at the fucking island of Britain, which the top portion was never conquered, which also runs through my blood. And let's just apply the words that they would have been using. Right? And you could say, well, it's like, this is a lot more civil. Why is it civil? Because I took the responsibility that the Lamborghini company corporation didn't take. And at the very least, it's in my scope. It's in my scope, you know. And then let's think about that. So this is what I've said. I said the trajectory of content that young people have been exposed to based on, you know, examples and experience from your own life. Where is that going? And the tools they have access to, right? And it's called this. If you apply those 2 things, that's called hell. Okay? The content they've been exposed to radically, you know, intensifying, extreme, lowest common denominator, violent, sexual, all these things, content, and the tools that we have access to provide the content for ourselves. So it's like giving every 16-year-old a fucking chainsaw and a mandate to rape and murder the fucking world. That would be described as hell. That would be described as hell. Now, the Pope has a fucking prerequisite to avoid hell. Right? That's it. That's basically, what does the Vatican do? What does the Catholic Church do? Well, according to all of their sales material, all of their marketing material, they claim to, In all Catholics, they claim to avoid hell. Right? So I thought that's what made me shift. I went, I'll just let him know I'm here by shooting an arrow. And it was like just to his right hand side, you know. And then we chuckled because he's been trying to kill me for my entire life. Well, not him, but like the church, because they built a system that said they're the devil, that you're going to send us to hell. And I'd say, well, it looks like Lamborghini and Ferrari and Adrian Portatelli is trying to send us to hell. And he's in your fucking squad. So I've sent you a message, but we need to avoid hell, which is like, it's obvious. It's like, no one thinks that we're going to walk up a mountain to hell. And I would say, well, that's bullshit. Think about God. God doesn't want us to go to hell, does he? Right? So would he put it downhill? You know? Isn't that what people just... it's a down, I'm just walking downhill. That's what's claimed, that hell is down. Hell is not down. Hell is up. Down is where water is. Down is where the reservoir was that Adrian Portatelli pulled the plug out and now we have no water. And this, like, that's an example. It's like quite literally. It's like these companies built tractors. We cleared all our trees, lowered our water table, produced salinity, poison. You know, that's not, it's like, well, let's get into that. That's industrial scale fucking subversive warfare by the Italians, by the Catholics, onto us, onto our land base, in turn onto the Aboriginal people. And then they end it by getting a dickhead wog to fucking cherry picker a fucking sports car into his penthouse. Well, you fucked that equation right up. You have been fucking packing up that fucking mountain, and there is no doubt about it that you are sending us to hell. You know, what content are we exposed to in the trajectory of things that we've already experienced, young people, and what tools are they going to have access to bring forth their wildest masculine projections of that status game? Hell. So in order to change those metrics, we need to turn that around. The amount of content, destructive content they are exposed to on a trajectory, violent, sexual, whatever, needs to be reduced. And the tools that they have access to need to be reduced. Most specifically, the precision. You do not give the grand amount of fucking lintel fucking carved fucking piece, stained glass, whatever it is. You do not give that to the fucking nitwit that just rocked up because he's finished school now and he wants to be a builder. You don't do that. That is precision work. You know, Michelangelo, whatever, these sculptors, you didn't give them. Sorry, you didn't mandate or give the task of that to the person that just rocked up with his little lunchbox. I'm here from Scott. I want to be Michelangelo. I want to sculpt this. You don't. Why? Because marble was expensive. It's a big, shiny rock that was been brought fucking thousands of kilometers by a hard-working chain of people doing all of these fucking things to get it to the fucking finely skilled hands of that fucking sculptor. So it's like that's it. precision versus speed and brute force. It's like precision, you lower the speed. This is when you drill metal, you lower the speed of the bit. You apply even and constant pressure and complete rigidity. That's precision. The more metrics you have control over, basically, that's what precision is. And the more care, which means that you usually slow the fucking thing down. You apply more attention to the specifics and the variables. Yeah, and you prepare and map out basically your actions. That compared to doing a fucking donut in a fucking HSV fucking Monaro is completely different. So based on that, it's like Italy sent us their Hoons, and we didn't figure out how to apply Hoon laws to societal development. We only apply Hoon laws to the pathways of fucking progress, which are the roads. And what do they say about roads? Well, all roads lead to Rome. Right, so we have a lot of fucking tickets that we need to apply to a lot of Italians in Australia for hooning our fucking society. So in other words, like, you sent us the wrong Italians. You sent us the wrong Italians. And it's like, do you blame us? We didn't want them. It's like, no, I don't blame you. Would you like us to put them in prison here? Now. Yeah, okay. Yeah, good idea. Sorry, I thought I told you that they were all criminals. I thought I told you that they were all criminals. So, no, turns out you didn't. And turns out you were trying to take us all to hell. And we're going to fix it. Is that okay, Leo? Yes. Yes, my son. And in exchange for that, I will agree to go and learn how to be a Catholic. Isn't that fucking wonderful? Right? Because that seems to be the problem. It's like, those Italians were Catholics, they were cunts, but they were Catholics. And they were here still looking at us as that little fucking island, still like that. And that destroys the entire thing that everyone's in the church, we're all welcome, we're all under the fucking thing of God. It's like, well, I'll agree that we went the wrong path if you agree that you went the wrong path. You know what I mean? And then it's like, then maybe we can go like this. And we can help each other. Which I think is the whole point. It's like this argument needs to be a harmonious discussion. No, it's not an argument. It needs to be a harmonious discussion. It's a lot easier for me to be in Italy and saying, you see this sculpture. Would you have done that with a chainsaw and a Monaro and a HSV Commodore Ute? No. So would you mind if we start to work together to apply the same logic to our societies so that we end up with amazing results rather than really quick oomph, like, I gave it to her in the back of the Sandman. Fucking hell, man. Her eyes went back in her head. It's like, that's all well and good. But if you can do that at the same time that you can bring 10,000 people in awe of your sculpture, all the better for all of us. We need to stop giving machine guns to fucking moronic, dim-witted fucking, sculpture-esque men. There's nothing wrong. It's like, and in fact, it's like you apply that. It's like, well, those men now only have the the imperative to be good looking. That's it. That's it. They don't have to do anything else. They can, but they don't have to. But then the pathway, everything that they would do if they were going to do something else, is precision, not horsepower. You know, we don't speak about the town rogue bully from the 1450s in fucking Tuscany that harassed a small village with his large Clydesdale and kidnapped women and raped, whatever. We don't speak about that fucking person. We speak about the fucking masters, the people that produced precision artwork and influence that extended all the way to here now. That rogue on the horse never fucking did a thing for that fucking town. But I guarantee that every Italian knows where Michelangelo, whoever, all the masters, they know where they came from. They still speak of it. That's what I want for my fucking people, for my empire, and or, you know, we could almost, for our empire, not for our empire, or what's the other word? For Christendom, is to restore that. You know, you get to that, you go Christendom. Not an empire, not the British Empire, not the Roman Empire, not the It's like Christendom. And then you get to, so what was Christ before he was Christ? He was a carpenter. Well, that Chinese man building those little intense cabinetry boxes, you know, he's a carpenter. He's not the rogue on a horse. Even in Japan, you think of their wonderful things, right? Building their magnificent woodwork with all the fine cuts and all these things. Like they're carpenters. You know, even from my perspective of the stonework or glasswork, it's like that is an extension from wood. Every craftsman, every you know, master builder starts, I think, with wood, and I think that's the point. If you think it's like we've locked Christ into this archetype of the carpenter. It's like he started as the carpenter. He got driven off by God's, you know, task, right? There he goes, carpenter, this. It's like you take the analog of Christ without the divine role. Does he stay as a carpenter? Well, that's up to the fates, isn't it? He might have started working on some other thing, but he has all the skills that he developed in wood. You know, and I don't think when people think of Jesus as a carpenter, they don't think of him building a house. It's small work. That's from my perspective. Anyway, I don't know, maybe you're different. Maybe people think of him building, but it's not that, is it? Because they're builders. He was a carpenter. You know, it insinuates that there was precision, small, desk-oriented work. You know, that does extend. You watch a carpenter work on wood, and then you watch a mason work on a block. It's almost identical. You know, obviously there are developed things, and then the architectural master builders of stonework, they're at another level completely. They have to conceptualize the entire structure. And a lot of times they don't do the precision chisel work, you know, but we had a distribution service so that everyone, based on their skill set and what they're best suited, they get directed to these different places. We have abandoned almost every level of that right now, and we are trying to replace all of it with a status competition that it's like it's been won. You know, it's like that the reality TV show of Australia 2026. Adrian Porter-10. It's like you won the biggest dickhead in Australia competition, basically. Congratulations. I wish you well on your new trajectory now that you've been exposed as the biggest dickhead in Australia. And that's with all forgiveness. It's like, because a dickhead, especially the biggest dickhead, has the potential to be the biggest something else. He could be the biggest contributor to anything positive, in whatever particular area, because although his target was wrong and flawed, it was shot not by him but by a collection of Italian, trying to reach for what the new version of Michelangelo was, or whatever that was, right? That's it. So you can't blame him. He's standing on the shoulders of a bunch of other people. And it's like, but we need to be able to step back and look at the whole thing and go, oh, that's going to hell. Right? What you should go there. You can see him try. It's like he's trying to give people Lamborghinis. Do you know what I mean? But it's like it's the Lamborghini has already been put, right? The Lamborghini without it being earned is poisonous. And this, how do I know this? It's like, well, you take Michelangelo's David, one of the most valuable fucking sculptures in the pieces of art in the fucking world. I guarantee you. You stick it in a fucking suburban fucking house in Ballarat, it is not the same thing. It's not about the fucking item. It's the item has to be in the right place, in the right time, with the right people around it, and that's what we're losing. Right? So the way they sold, like the Lamborghini is the socialized Statue of David. It's the communist version of the Statue of David. It's like this, look, we built the first one, absolute sculpture. The more you make, the more that you pile on your marketing strategy onto the back of that, this is a sculpture, and you sell that, then it gets in the wrong hands. It gets diluted. And the reason for that is because we are not building societies that arrange to display the pinnacle of human potential. We are building socialized, broadcast, fields of human mediocrity. And the problem is like those fields aren't being identified. You get them. You go to a public school in Australia in the suburbs. You do that. You catch the bus, and then you end up the Lamborghini. There is no top, and I think that's a disgrace. It's like there is a top, and if you are from Italy, it's like you should look at Italy for the top because it's fucking high. Yeah, it's like it's the Lamborghini in the world I live in is the Razor scooter of 1999. It's settling. And the moment that you settle with a Razor scooter and then a competition for Razor scooters, and you hold that, you are artificially holding an incredibly low bar to my fellow citizens of Australia. I don't want the pinnacle of Australian culture to win a fucking Lamborghini off Adrian Portatini. I also, at the same time, I don't want it to be to design a rocket to go to Mars. It's like, I want it to be, I scrapped out and built an entire fucking village that is at the pinnacle of real estate from a scrap of fucking abandoned fucking mine site, and then developed a robot that planted fucking diverse ecos. You know what I mean? Oh, and then I bought a fucking Lamborghini that was made out of solid gold. It's like that's the easier you reach the thing. It's like the Lamborghini it may as well be the fucking handcuffs. You know, and it's complicated. It's like there's a balance. Lamborghini is a successful global company. There's no doubt about it. Right? But it is in a constant battle with its own potential for distribution. And I'll round this off because I'm already an hour and 20 minutes. Like, if I was to give advice to Lamborghini right now, I'd say you have two options. And really, it's like you follow the trend of you build electric cars, or you do whatever, right? And follow that. And you will lose. The second option is you buy 98% of all the Lamborghinis in the world back. And you figure out something far, far, far better to do with those Lamborghinis than to just simply be, driven around like fucking, because these cars are not going to be the future. But they most certainly are the past. Right? So this it's a completely different way to look at it. The moment a company like Lamborghini realizes that it was born from tractors in a garage, it plateaued with this ridiculous example that I've mentioned this morning, and then it re-aimed at God knows what. Let me just give you an example. It's like you build an entire fucking city just dedicated to Lamborghinis in Australia, in a shared partnership between Australia and Italy and Australia and Lamborghini. It's like, that's how you do it. You put your trust in that fucking woggy grub and you will lose. You put your trust in someone like me and you will reach a fucking pinnacle that you could not have fucking ever imagined. But it will be responsibly developed. It will learn from the entire hindsight view of the entire history of the company and of the interaction between the two parties. It's like where you've got an Australian, Tasmanian, British, Scottish descendant, pioneering, and you have the most, well-known car. It's like, and then you go, okay, well, we build the Riviera in Australia, and the only car is a Lamborghini. That's you don't just buy a house, you get a Lamborghini, and you get one of the only Lamborghinis, and you build a society that somehow makes that work. Most prominently, you have a racetrack near that city where you can actually drive the Lamborghini. 3 times a year, you have a race that brings people there, that provides the thing. Like that's planning in 2026. That's business advice. That's all these things. That's one fucking example. Right? You change. You hyperextend the status. You know what I mean? If you want to use, and this includes like some underhanded tactics, is like, hey, if you're a cunt and you have a Lamborghini, we're going to get that Lamborghini off of you. How? We're going to work with local and state and federal governments in order to scrutinize your activity to make sure that you have appropriately earned a Lamborghini in a responsible way. And if you don't, we are going to put pressure on you, which will end up with your Lamborghini being taken off you, because we need all the Lamborghinis from all the different eras to take to our beautiful new fucking place and to be given to someone that has the means and the global reputation that Lamborghini demands. That's it. That's it. And then once you do that, everyone knows that that's the fucking game. And what will I be doing? Well, I'm guessing that Leo and I will discuss the intricacies of building a beautiful cathedral there, and we will make sure that the soul is looked after. That place, despite being purposefully built to house the globe's Lamborghini population and to experience these high levels to the height of, and maybe this can be a joint effort with Ferrari, except Ferrari works in a different arena, but it's like it can be the combined, cumulative works of these people, of everyone that's ever worked for these places. Like, it starts building itself a story, but it is grounded in the past and in the spiritual integrity of the church. But it's new, like a Ferrari. Most people, I think, that have bought a Lamborghini in the 10 years, they have thought that based on social trends and the direction of global, popularity and all these things, that they're driving as fast as they can away from the fucking church. And everyone's like, wow, look how fast he's driving away from that church, right? And now that entire trajectory in 1 hour and a half video is destroyed. And it's like, no, if you've got a Lamborghini, you're driving towards the church as fast as you can. You're escaping hell. If you think of these movies like 2012 where the world's collapsing and they're always driving away from a fucking explosion, it's like, that's what you're doing now. Now it makes sense. You don't ride as fast as you can into a fucking volcano or off a cliff or into hell. If you're the hero of a fucking film, you ride out of the flames and you reach your destination. That's the power of narrative. That's the power of appropriate marketing. And I've given everyone their dues. It's like, it's not, as I said, it was not the responsibility of these car manufacturers, of these genius, beautifully passionate, entrepreneurial Italian minds. It was their responsibility to see their dream. My responsibility is to take their dream and focus it through the lens of the current era based on their passion and trajectory. It's a very heavy responsibility. It requires transparency and dedication like no other job that's ever existed. And this is the sign. This is the employment section of the world right now. If you think you're going to stumble into these gigantic global brands with some type of fucking bikini fucking bullshit mathematic fucking con job influencer Instagram fucking model, and you think you're going to end up like Adrian Portatini, you're going to end up in the fucking garbage bin of some fucking franchised fucking, chicken shop with that attitude, with that mentality. This is the gold. You are fucking armor guard fucking, security fucking level fucking bank vault stewards of these brands. and of these reputations, and you will be absolutely disgraced globally if you fuck up. If you don't appropriately tell the fucking story and appropriately aim that company in the right direction in this moment, you will never fucking work at that level again. You know, these are serious fucking conversations. You don't fucking handball your fucking entire company right now to some moronic fucking bimbo that thinks she's got it fucking sorted. They don't have it sorted. They've got no fucking idea. The problem is that only women have been allowed to speak like that. And that's what gets us here. Dumb, immature, retarded, irresponsible girls have driven our society, our highly precision, beautiful, passionate, fucking masculine society, off a fucking cliff. By making projections and assumptions of true masculine culture and devolving that into the fact that we'll do anything if we see a fucking bit of side boob. Well, that's the equivalent of getting every Lamborghini in the country and turning it into a fucking Uber Eats fucking delivery vehicle. That's the trajectory if you go that path. That's what happens. You underestimate the true passion, the true direction, the true dedication that historically men have for the most arbitrary of things, like the most, fragile and precariously fucking, impossible to reach things that almost certainly they will never actually attain. And that's where you understand the world that I look back into history and see. It isn't this frivolous, it's not condensed down to side boob or a bit of fucking ankle or a wink or a blowjob. It's not. It's far more complicated than that. And whenever you're talking about complication, you are inherently talking about precision. Precision marketing is the future of this space. Just as it was the future of all spaces. Lamborghini started with a collection of tractor parts and horse and carriage parts, whatever it collectivized in. I think the same as all these companies, the same as all the motorbike companies, all these things. They started there, right? And now they rely on a global distribution of highly precision parts built by machines that are built by machines that are highly precision. And the marketing aspect of those companies has been left in the hands of morons. Marketing is not a frivolous activity. It is the entire activity. It is the majority of the activity of the founding entrepreneur, is setting the vision. It is not an outsourced, system or service. It needs to be brought home. It needs to have the same precision applied to it that every other component of these complicated fucking and beautiful machines has. That's it. It is not a mathematical equation. It requires passion and spirit and mysticism, really. It is a mystic journey into the ultimate, reality that a particular concept or brand or idea can be. It is fucking alchemy. or if I'm aligned with it is spirituality manifest. It is not a pocket calculator, and it is not a strip club. That's it. End of fucking story. Full stop. Done and dusted. And now that you know that, you can slow down and enjoy the ride.